Apparently, it also completely deletes everything and goes right back to default descriptions and everything else when you're doing a live stream on your phone. Unlike on your actual desktop, it actually keeps all your settings that you've ever had, and you have to completely rewrite everything. Pretty neat. Anyway, in this case, this is actually what we're going to be talking about today, is what that last attempt at this live stream was, which is that we're going to be talking about the NBA, obviously, a lot of different things. We're going to be talking about specifically, obviously, you know, the head coach hiring. So we're going to be talking about specifically, that would be Tiago Splitter and Micah Nori. So Chicago Bulls hired, Portland Trailblazers hired. We're going to be talking about a little bit about the NBA draft itself, obviously, and kind of have some reactions to how that's been going. We are going to do a lot of different things like that. We're talking all sorts of things like that today, because there's a lot of interesting stuff in it, I feel like, including actually in the draft. If we just want to touch on it really quickly before we actually dive into it, I think it's actually very interesting to have seen that Darius Acuff actually went to the Nets. All the different mock drafts I've seen from people who are super into college. I've never really cared about college basketball or any college anything, so it's just the mock drafts throughout, actually I'd say probably the last like 6 months, have all had Darius Acuff actually kind of tanking a little bit in his stock and actually going down somewhere between the Kings, obviously, which is the next pick, the 7th pick, and all the way down to like about the 14th pick. But he was picked by the Nets at 6, which is interesting, because that then forced the Kings, the Bongs, as I like to call them, to pick up Mikael Brown Jr., which is interesting because a lot of people were worried about the fit that Mikael Brown would have over Darius Acuff, and I actually saw that Darius Acuff would be the main one that people would actually take in that position if you are the Bongs. But, alas, as that goes, that is not the case at the moment, so that's always fun. So, just to touch on that very, very quickly, let's go and look at the actual, so far, how far it's gone, if we may. So far the picks. Interesting, the NBA.com website showed as if they were the ones sharing that information, and they're not. They're not, at least on the page for it, they're not actually listing it. I actually got that from Google, but I probably should be getting that then from the pick-by-pick results. There we go. And so I just have to do, unfortunately, Disney World. Okay. No, actually, it's showing, this makes a lot more sense. It's actually showing the actual picks as they happen. So it is everything that everybody expected. It is AJ DeBonsta first, Darren Peterson went second, Cameron Boozer went third, Caleb Wilson went fourth, and Keaton Waddler did in fact go sixth. So actually, the Darius Acuff thing did not yet transpire. Makes a lot more sense of timing. But anyway, let's just jump directly into the main thing, the number one thing I want to talk about. So we're going to start with that. And that is, I wanted to specifically talk to you guys about the Miami and Milwaukee trade, because that one was really fucking whack, I feel like. Just because I feel like the Heat got absolutely fucking fleeced in that trade. Like, all the Miami Heat are getting is literally Giannis and Bobby Portis. That's it. They're not getting anything else out of this. Meanwhile, they're sending Kasparas Giacochonis, they're sending Tyler Hero, they're sending Khalil Ware, they're sending Jaime Jaquez, they're sending 3 first-round picks, 2 unprotected, one of them's a swap. Actually, one of them's the 13th in this year's draft. They sent them the pick swap in 2030, which is obviously a first rounder, and then they sent them a second rounder. That's fucking insane. Okay, especially if you're the Heat. Part of your issue was you didn't really have that much of a great bench, and also your guys are getting a bit older, right? That's why you kind of parted ways and you kind of go intermediate age and you pick up a Norman Powell at the time, who I think was at the time 28 or 29, So he's not like getting up there necessarily, but he's also still in his prime. You're trying to collect some of the gaggles of some decent potential developing players like a Kasparis Yakatronis, who's young, and like a Kalel Ware, who's young. And by the way, Kalel Ware, as we all know, has been doing really well for the Heat. So I find that to be really interesting too, that he keeps doing better and better every year. He's really showing out. He's showing that he really is a lot better than people expect him to be, especially off the bat. And yet, he's had all these conflicts supposedly with Eric Spoelstra. So that's probably part of the reason why they sent him out of there. Plus, again, for how well he was doing despite that, it kind of says like, hey, we want to take him on. If your head coach is having issues with one of their main young guys who's actually already showing out, let us take him on. We'll be happy to take that in. If you're Milwaukee. And so I just feel like though that as a result, the Heat also give up all their youth. And that's really stupid of them too. And they gave up, again, the 13th pick this year. So they're going to have even less youth going forward. And again, it's I think a 2028. I think it was the 2028 and 2029. Or I don't think you can trade consecutive picks. It must have been the 29 and 2031 first round picks of the Heat that were sent out unprotected to Milwaukee. And again, that's just really, it's a little ways out, but it's still really weird because that's also worse because you'd want to more send, and you're sending this year's too. So you have 2 years where you might have a first round pick if you're Miami. Okay, I guess, fine. But like, these aren't the picks you want to keep. You want to keep the ones that are like the 29, 30, 31, 32 because Bam's getting up there in age too. Giannis is already 30 plus. And he's already showing signs of how hard he plays, leading him to having, persistent chronic injury issues, so not necessarily being always available. And then, Nopo is now 30 plus. So like, your main core is all 30 plus year olds now, or just about to be 30 plus years old. I'm not exactly sure what age Bam is. I think he's 28 or 29 right now. So by next year he will be 29 or 30. So you're not, and I don't really feel like Bobby Portis and Giannis, as good as they are at their peaks and when they're actually healthy, at peak health, I don't really feel like that really moves the needle if you're Miami at all. Like, obviously it might overall improve the team, but then again, you kind of gave away a little bit of your bench. You took on a lot of contract as well, because obviously Giannis' contract is immense for what's left of it. I know it's 1 year left, but you're obviously, your hope is going to obviously be that you want to retain him and that he'll re-sign there. So that's still going to be a max contract, his last max, I'm sure, super max. So at that point, if you're Miami, you're kind of fucking yourself. You're shooting yourself in the foot is what you're doing, if I'm being completely honest. So that's not great either, So genuinely, I really feel that Miami has absolutely got them. They just basically bent over and got anal raped. That's what it feels like Miami did. Pat Riley's like, yeah, let's bend over and let's take it in with no lube, And it's just like, okay. Do you really think Giannis is that good, especially at his age now, and also the last couple of seasons, and how much more he's been starting to stack chronic injury issues? I would say no. He's not good enough anymore to really move that needle. And again, you need a good, reliable bench. If you don't have that, you're absolutely as good as screwed. Especially as I feel like this last finals, actually, right, the 2026 finals, right, they just proved why that's the case. Like, San Antonio is absolutely deep, for sure. But they're not as deep as the Knicks, as most people mentioned. Although, in my opinion, I debate that. I feel like they're kind of even in depth because you just don't know what you're going to get out of your bench guys for both teams, especially once you get past the sixth man, maybe the seventh guy in the rotation. I guess it'd probably be the seventh guy. You just don't know, and that's always a pain in the ass. The Brooklyn Nets officially just picked, and they just picked up Mikael Brown. So, honestly, odds are, and I do believe this is going to happen, is that the Bongs, Sacktown Bongs, they're going to pick up Darius Akoff. Most people that watch college basketball, they're familiar with all this stuff. Do these mock drafts. This is where Darius has been mocked. So, and they feel like he's also one of the better fits in terms of point guards. And obviously, they don't really have a point guard at the moment. So, I mean, like, you have Devin Carter. And he hasn't really proven himself to be that valuable. And also, if I recall correctly, I think he was one of the older rookies when he was drafted a couple of years back. So, are you really going to lean into Devin Carter? You know, like, I don't think you are. And then also, consider the fact that you have somebody akin to where was I going with that? Carter. Right. You have a front office that's not really trusted that much, right? And it also cannot, for the life of it, maintain and keep a head coach. They don't trust in a single head coach that they've hired over the last literally over a decade now. They have never maintained their coach. They just don't do it. Like, the most, I think, is what, a season and a half they kept? Maybe a little less. Actually, I think it was 2 seasons, but like at the max over the last decade, 12 years. The Bongs are not stable at all. They never have been for probably well over a decade. So, and obviously, again, as we all know, Vivek Ranadive, the owner, is a meddling moron who, against the best interest of the success of the roster and the team, continuously sticks his stupid little nose and grubby little fingers in there and fucks it all up because he wants what he wants. I mean, I guess when you have billions of dollars, right, and you're the majority owner of a sports team, you can do whatever the fuck you want because technically that is how it is. It's kind of like, yeah, I guess for Vivek, it's literally that case. And this is basically his childhood sandbox that he likes to fuck around in. And so he's bullying everyone else around him, all of his staff, ironically, that actually know what the fuck they're doing, theoretically, and tell him to go fuck off, basically, because I want what I want, which is really stupid, by the way. The Bongs have already picked, apparently, but it's not officially updating to show up who they have picked. That'll be here in a little bit. And if I'm a team building kind of guy, well, obviously my main 2 focuses are always picking up and shoring up the center position and also the point guard positions. I would start with point guard, then I go to center, then I bounce back and forth between them, while occasionally considering the other positions, especially if we're shorthanded in those ones, I would go for that. And obviously if you're the Bongs, again, because of the lack of trust you have amongst the league, because you've been so unstable and unreliable for the last 12 plus seasons, you almost have to rely on your draft picks at that point, hoping that, again, Vivek doesn't go and fuck up the sandbox all over again and dictate, like, hey, I gotta fucking do this. So, that's... yeah. So if I was in that position, I would probably go looking at the point guards right now and or potentially take a flyer on somebody like an Aday. Could be interesting. But then you definitely have to move Domantas Sabonis, obviously. They decided us for that reason as well. I'm going to do a quick check really quick on my stream. I'll be right back. I just want to make sure in playback that I actually, like, you can hear me properly and it's not like doing some weird shit. So, actually I could do that on my PC right now. I'm just not going to. Actually, no, I can't do it on this phone. That's right, because I'm having issues there too, technologically. So I actually either have to do it on my Chromebook or I can do it here. So let me quickly pop into my own stream on my PC. I'm assuming you can hear me fine. Quickly pop into my own stream. Yep, alright, good. We're good. I hate doing that, but I've never live streamed on a phone before, so that sounds fine. The audio isn't great, but could be worse. Alright, so anyway. The Kings have in fact selected Darius Akoff. So we're on to the Guy Hawks for pick 8. Okay, so getting back to the trades. I also wanted to touch on the Frockland Bullion Cubes who was the third team again? Not again. Oh, Bimbo Cloves trade, Minister Scooter, because that also was a really weird trade, and I feel like a lot of people would obviously agree with that because, I mean, it made sense obviously for Minnesota, right? We all know Minister Scooter. Their whole point was they wanted to re-sign Ayo Dosunmu, and they wanted to do it before he actually, in earnest, would end up in free agency, right? When free agency began. So naturally, of course, they're like, okay, let's prioritize clearing space so we can re-sign Ayo Dosunmu. And they did that by trading Orange Julius, obviously. So Orange Julius gets sent to the Frockland in the Rotten Apple, and in return they also sent, or I should say, they also sent their 28th pick in this draft right now that's going on. They also, so they sent that out there, and then what they did is that they had specifically went and gotten the 33rd pick in this draft from the Frockland, Brooklyn, and then they had, that was it for them. So they literally just moved to clear space, and that includes getting out of the first round, not by very many picks, obviously, 5 picks later. That's actually good, I suppose. If you want to still pick around that range, you benefit from that because that also is cost savings, because obviously anybody who's drafted in the first round gets a decent sized contract. You get to the second round, now you can also put them on 2-way contracts. Whereas with first rounders, typically you cannot do that, I think, unless they get waived. Basically, they don't make the roster. They do not actually get their rookie signed. They don't get signed as a rookie by the team that they have for whatever reasons, because that does happen. It's very rare, but it does happen. Outside of that, though, then obviously, as we all know, the second round now, with the rules, the way NBA has it, is that you can immediately just go and flip it and convert it to a 2-way contract rather than giving them their usual second round contracts that are a lot cheaper. So either way, you're saving a lot of money on your draft pick as well, just by going back 5 picks from the pick that they had. So that's another cost saving thing that I don't think a lot of people are mentioning with Minnesota on that trade, is that it's not just Orange Julius getting kicked out, which had a huge oversized contract, and it was also their own damn fault, because not only did they trade for him while he still had a couple of years, I think, left that were really big, but then I think they re-signed him last offseason to a really big contract, and like everybody was like, you don't be stupid, don't do what everyone else has been doing, like what they do with Tobias Harris, and then they always regret it, and they did it anyway. And go figure, just one season later, after they re-signed him, this big contract was kicking in this offseason, they're like, you can go. This is a mistake. Go away. So they sent him to Brooklyn. But yeah, and then obviously, like I said, going back, sending the 28th pick to Brooklyn for the 33rd also is a cost savings piece. It's not necessarily huge. I guess you could debate as significant. To me, it's kind of significant because, again, every little bit helps. And with how expensive their contracts have been anyway, especially with the re-signing of, what the hell was that sound? Jaden McDaniels and the, I think it's a whoop whoop from a siren. Just doesn't sound like it to me. It actually kind of makes me jump. It sounded even weirder than that to me. But anyway, but yeah, every little bit you save helps, right? Every little bit of money you get helps, especially again, like Jaden McDaniels, obviously his big re-signing within the last couple of seasons, which made it really fucking expensive contract. And then obviously you got the same with Ant. Ant is in the Supermax, so again, it's the same thing, right? He has his rookie max, but like he's in that max, right? So I think he's pretty freshly into it. And then you still have the expensiveness, the expense of the contract in Rudy Gobert. So sending out Orange Julius, who you also re-signed very stupidly at a very costly contract for what he gives you, especially in the playoffs. That's the obvious piece, obviously saving money, but again, they're still a very expensive roster, especially with those main 3 guys. And now Ayo Dosunmu, actually, because they re-signed him. Although I will admit, for what he gave them, especially this last offseason, and how he's kind of started to break out in Chicago before they traded him, $112 million over 5 years, and technically it's less than that because they have a player option on it in year 5. That's still a steep expense. Now you have 4 guys who are $100 million or more over 4 years. It's still super expensive, but they still got their guy after trading Orange Julius out. That was the point of it. And again, that's why I emphasize that pick and moving back 5 spots with Brooklyn, swapping those picks, because again, it really genuinely does help them out a lot long term, and I think it's like significant money savings from that pick, because especially if they do decide to go a two-way and convert the rookie scale contract, obviously, of a second rounder, that they can do this way into a two-way, and most teams do want to do that these days, obviously, especially if they do want to save more money. It's the cheapest contract they have, and it's also non-guaranteed money, right? Because again, it's a two-way contract. So Minnesota was intelligent. I know that's why they did that as well. I assume whoever they pick up at 33, that's exactly what they want. Is they're aiming to obviously save themselves even more money and put them on the two-way instead of actually doing anything else, and then sending them obviously to the Iowa Wolves. So on the Minnesota front, they're the one that makes the perfect amount of sense. Obviously, the Bullion Cubes in Chicago, right, Chi-Town, they also actually did pretty damn well for themselves, I feel like, because they picked up Nick Claxton. I'm not entirely sure what the point of sending out Nicholas Claxton was for Brooklyn. It's not like they couldn't afford to have that, keep him on as well. And it's not like him and Orange Julius conflict. They don't, because they're different positions, and they play very, very differently as well. So, I don't know, it's very odd to me, but I guess more power to them. I don't know, man. The best thing to think of is that their plans are to actually, does Brooklyn not have oh no, that's right. They picked up Mikal Brown. That makes a lot more sense. They do not have another first rounder. I'm actually curious on this one. I need to know for context's sake. They do not. That's interesting. Now that really makes me wonder what they're up to, right? Because they never really had a center anyway, other than Nick. That's the only center that DeFrockland has had. So why exactly the Nets have decided to, pick up another combo guard in Mikal Brown Jr., and that's after sending out their only center on the fucking roster. It makes you wonder what exactly is their aim. What are they doing? Maybe some of the speculation's right. Maybe their aim long term now is that, hey, we want to go and we want to sign a Yusuf Nurkic. We want to sign some other veteran big for however much money. I'm actually somewhat curious, however. Here's a hot take. This would be very interesting if this happens, and it's actually closing in on that point because the 8th pick already came in. Kingston Flemings was picked up by the Hawks. This is going to be a hot take as a potential outlier that I don't think many people, if anybody's, going to think of. What if? Hear me out. What if Brooklyn's plan here? And they're cocky about it, right? They're not just they're cocky about them being able to pull this off. Is that this is why they got rid of Nick, is because their plan is actually to acquire Isaiah Hartenstein. Sam Presti has shown an addiction to picks, right? Especially first round picks. He just picked up more. Like, this is Sam Presti in a nutshell. And plus, again, they need to save money. And iHeart is currently now, I think he's on his last year, aka his team option this offseason. I believe it's a team option. For the contract he signed, 2+1, and I think that last year was a team option, which I believe was this year. Yeah, it would have to be this year because obviously this was year 2. He was with them. So that means that, this offseason he can either become a free agent, unrestricted free agent, or again, they can opt to send him out, basically, right? To trade him out. And again, given the precedent that Sam Presti has set, it does make me curious if perhaps there is a chance that Brooklyn sees this and they're like, but what if we do a sign-in trade with OKC to get to get Isaiah Hartenstein? What if we try for that? Sam Presti loves picks. We still have plenty of picks. What do you think, Sam? Are you willing to give up and save some money by sending iHeart out for, good cash, some picks, and maybe a player? Obviously, you'd have to do a player or two to make it work. And also, when I think about it, they do have some intriguing young prospects on that team. A lot of them guards, right? Combo guards that they could easily deal to OKC. And if they get a beneficial sign-and-trade agreement in terms of the contract, I could see that happening. I could genuinely see that happening. That'd be super interesting, though, if it did. That would be really weird. And again, I don't think it necessarily really helps Brooklyn that much. Theoretically, it might help OKC a little bit. Probably not, but there's a chance it does. Considering they can't get a big bag unless they get like Noah Clowney. But the odds are obviously that's not going to happen either. And still, they wouldn't have a true center outside of Thomas Sorber, I think it is, right? Isn't it Thomas Sorber who they picked, but he didn't really play this last year? In this last draft? I think so. I can't remember exactly who it is. Whoever the fuck it was. I think it's Thomas Sorber, though. Maybe they're going to bet on him. Maybe he's had like a really fucking good set of trainings and scrimmages, and so they're just, or I'm not, honestly, I don't know, because he's been injured for a long time, so actually that may not work. But again, the reason why I mentioned this as well is because, again, you have the 12th pick and you have the 17th pick. So, there's another possibility. If it's not the iHeart aim, and this is the more likely one, obviously, this is the less hot take one, is that I still think Brooklyn may be eyeing the 12th pick specifically of OKC. Because, again, cheap contract, it's another rookie contract. Obviously, they're rebuild. They want to develop guys. They have two vets, one and experienced vets, by the way, very experienced. At least one with championship experience, and MPJ. Thought he's the best vet to set an example for young guys, because he's definitely not. For a lot of reasons, especially how he plays. But Orange Julius, kind of the same problem, actually. But Julius Randle is, they're going to have two of those guys. Maybe that, and then if they do still try to sign somebody like a Yusuf Nurkic, again, the guy with a decent amount of playoff experience, maybe that's their goal, right? Is that they're going to try to help their young guys along that way, but they're still trying to get that 12th pick. And if they succeed in doing that, I could totally see them selecting Aday at 12. So instead of OKC getting Aday, it would actually be, or Golden State, if the Golden State doesn't take it before that, they would take on, obviously, Aday Mara via the draft. Those are my two thoughts. Those are my two beliefs about what they'd probably be trying to do. Either way, I guarantee that right now, Brooklyn is on the phone constantly, especially probably since they got to the 8th pick. That's where they probably really picked up the urgency once the 8th pick got made. I mean, like, let's call. Let's do everything we can to try to work out a deal so we can obtain one of these picks. And that is if they haven't already done so. I can imagine if... Actually, it says that the Heat have the 13th pick still. But I know for a fact that the Milwaukee got that 13th pick. So this should also still say Milwaukee on it. So the Milwaukee has the 10th and the 13th picks in this draft right now. It's kind of scary. And actually, Milwaukee's on the clock with the 10th right now. Apparently, according to Disney World, they believe Aday Mara is actually the best fit with Milwaukee. I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, I guess not the guys they picked up, right? The guys they picked up in the trade from Miami, actually, Aday might be one of the best fits that's available. Especially saying Morez already got picked. Dude, I love Morez Johnson. From everything I've seen and heard from him, about him through college and everything, and his mentality, his even the combine and everything, this dude is killer. He has a killer mentality. He has a very Tumani Kamara-esque kind of focus and everything. Big respect to that, man, let me tell you. 9th pick to Dallas. I have feelings about that pick because I know he's dominantly a strong power body, and he is again, like Tumani, right? He's a defensive specialist and a hustle freak, and a pretty dang good rebounder for his size. He's shown decent touch, but he's never actually really been that he's never really done much with it, is the problem, right? So it makes me curious why they picked that, right? Because do you really need another defensive specialist in there? I mean, I guess maybe, but I don't know. I feel like the fit alongside of especially Cooper is a bit puzzling. I'm sure you're trying to keep PJ Washington. So I'm very curious about what their idea for selecting him was. Apparently Croatia beat Panama. A little surprising. Share my live stream really quick because I haven't done that at all. I haven't had any viewers really anyway, because it's the only 2 viewers so far. Stuck around for like 2 seconds. For the Blazers. Don't have been shared. Okay. Just shut the fuck up, Twitter. God damn it. Okay. Anyway, distraction out of the way. So it appears that the Bucks took Braden Burries at 10. That is actually kind of surprising, I'm not going to lie. Again, especially for everything I've heard and seen around the draft and the combine, that he was expected to drop quite a ways from what I saw. So that's actually very interesting that he's already picked up at 10. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Anyway, facts aside, so we covered the Miami Heat, Milwaukee Bucks trade. And again, I really do feel as though the Heat got absolutely fucking wrecked. So like Pat Riley just bent them over and said, rape us without lube. We got this. Because all you're getting is an aging out freaking Giannis, who has shown over the last couple of seasons he can't stay really healthy, so he's kind of getting a little more fragile, as you kind of expect, especially his playstyle. I mean, you got a lot of stupidness there. Bobby obviously is also 30 plus. I think he's 32 right now. So like, yeah, he's just a role player. He's a good role player, that's for sure. But I don't know, man. It doesn't feel logical. And then, but for what Milwaukee got back from Miami, and then also how much older Miami has gotten and how much less deep or depth they have now, is crazy to me. So I just don't. I hate that trade for Miami. I mean, like, if you're a Miami Heat fan, you're going to, I guarantee it, mark my words, come back to this if you don't want to believe me, because I guarantee I'm going to be right. You're going to regret this Giannis trade. You're going to so fucking regret it, because you just got so much older. You gave away any little semblance of depth you even had. You gave away a lot of your youth, especially your promising ones, and like Khalil Ware and everything, right? You're going to hate your life as a Heat fan, for sure. And you got a lot more expensive in your roster for a lot less overall. You kind of screwed that one up. We obviously talked about the Chicago trade, Chicago, Minnesota, and Brooklyn trade, and my thoughts on that. And like I said, I don't really understand exactly what Brooklyn's angle with that one was. Like, Minnesota, they saved a fuckload of money so they could sign Ayo Dosunmu. They nailed that. Great for them. They're the ones that came out best out of that, in my opinion. The Bulls are second best, obviously, in that trade, because they got a Nick Claxton out of it. They got a potential future center for them, especially if he's able to, with a new setting, break out, which he probably will. He has the right energy and everything for that. I feel like with Tiago as well, he'll definitely benefit from that. Because Tiago Splitter, obviously, again, he's actually 7'1", by the way. At least I think he was listed as 7'1", maybe he was listed as 6'11". Still, he's a 7-foot big man who was played sometimes at center, especially I think his last couple of years of San Antonio was played at center, even though he's technically officially considered a power forward, but his play style was always more center. So obviously you have that, you have the San Antonio experience, which is huge for somebody, especially young like Nick Claxton, who needed to change the scenery. He's got it. Bunch of scrappy young dudes in Chicago. And Tiago, I feel like with the Blazers here in Portland, actually really proved his point of like how he really does know how to be a great mentor to young players, but also at the same time, and get the best out of them, while at the same time, he can actually, again, get a lot more out of them than you'd expect. And then, Brooklyn. What the fuck did you do that for? I get the fact that, again, because you're rebuilding, you have one of the most, well, at the time, you had one of the cheapest rosters in the world, in the league. I think it was the cheapest, was Brooklyn's. I totally get that, but at the same, like, so you take on a big contract in Orange Julius. Cool, great. But what, like, I still don't quite understand it, because, like, long term, what was the point of trading Nick Claxton away? Like, I don't get that. It's not like you needed to do it necessarily because you didn't have enough money. I guess it has to be the contract aspect, because they have, if they're taking in Julius's contract, then they have to send out a contract, and instead of sending out MPJ, for some reason they sent out Nick. I don't know, because they don't have a center anymore, right? That's why I mentioned a little bit earlier, like, I really do believe they're going to be gunning for that 12th pick from OKC. And then in the hot take department, if it's not that, they're going to try to do a sign and trade for for Isaiah Hartenstein, since he's now on the team option this offseason. And again, OKC clearly is in need of shedding contract, because
They're already really expensive. They have their main core. This is why they traded Aaron Wiggs over to Atlanta, right? Is because they're trying to save money. He was up for a contract renewal, so off he goes. They're going to have to do that with a couple of other dudes on that roster, mainly deeper bench guys. Obviously, you'd expect, but again, I feel like it's warranted for them to consider potentially parting ways with Isaiah Hartenstein. As valuable as he's been to them, I think long term that's the best option they can exercise right now. So Brooklyn trading for that 12th pick from OKC, I totally guarantee if they haven't already succeeded with that, they're going to constantly be calling them right now. I'm sure that the pick is in, for Golden State. I actually wonder who they'd pick. Braden Burries, because he's much more of a shooter, you'd think that they would have wanted him, but obviously we see that Milwaukee took him at 10. So they don't really have that. There's a lot of people that have started recently in the last month to start mocking Aday to Golden State. I'm not entirely sure on the fit there. I know that a part of that was because of the fact that they're okay, they could use a proper big-bodied center because, Draymond's aging out, and that was really the whole course, we're aging out. And they already traded, was it Trace Jackson Davis they traded away, I think? And I think they kept Quentin Post. And they're more stretches anyway. They're kind of big-bodied, but average height power forwards than centers. But their athleticism kind of makes them a little bit more center-ish. I don't know, it's very interesting, that weird dynamic. And so you really only have, I think, Quentin Post as a center properly there, and Golden State. So yes, you could use a center, and again, because long-term, right, you want to make sure that long-term you have a proper, true center to anchor you, right? Because again, your core is getting really fucking ancient. So it's really only for that or those two reasons that I can see Golden State wanting Aday and having picked him here. If they did, hasn't updated for me yet. We'll see if they did pick him. They picked Yaxel Lindeborg. So basically, a younger, what they probably hope to be another younger version of Draymond Green. That's who Golden State picks, is the Axel. A very toolsy pick. Interesting. I wonder what that means for trades. They might already have some trades tentatively lined up then, Golden State, if that's their pick. Because why would you pick up a second Draymond Greenish kind of guy in Yaxel? That. You could have sealed your future, at least tried to seal your future with Aday or any Hans Steinbach, any of these centers in the draft. They're always focused on shooters, so I get that in a way. It is very interesting. So now I gotta wonder if again OKC does not agree to trade this pick. Which actually, now I think about it, this would help them save money too, theoretically. Although then again, it's a lottery pick, and those are pretty expensive these days. By the way, lottery picks are so much more expensive than I ever thought they would be. Because it wasn't that long ago that lottery picks, their top pick was making $5 million in their first year. And that wasn't that long ago. I think it was 4 or 5 seasons ago. And now I think they're making over 10 or 11 million in their first year. That's insane to me. Whoa. Damn, bro. It's utterly mind-boggling to me. But still, again, I think OKC would definitely be more than happy to take on in this case, it's probably somewhere around a $7-8 million contract for a rookie. But I still feel like a team like Brooklyn would want to trade for this 12th pick right now. But if they're not going to trade it, and it's already now about halfway through the pick clock, then they're obviously picking somebody. And Aday has been mocked here at 12 very persistently over the last month. now that I think on that though, if they do pick Aday Mara, then I really do feel like they are gonna have to get rid of Isaiah Hartenstein. And because it's a team option that he's up on right now, because again, there's a 2-year contract plus 1, is a team option, which is always weird for a veteran to get a team option on him. But team option, so he's easily able to either become a full free agent, and obviously they're going to want to trade him for something. So they're going to probably trade him if they take Aday Mara here, I feel like. Especially considering, again, you're probably betting on why did I say Steinbach? Thomas Sorber, again, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I swear that's who they picked last year for the center spot, who's been out all year, his rookie year this year. They're probably betting on him being healthy next year. And so you already have your 2 probably predominant guys at that point in Aday and him. And you're probably expecting your veterans and your leaders, your core, your main big 3, and Shae, Jaylen, and so J-Dub and Chet, to be able to like properly help train them a little bit, and not really therefore playing, say, Aday Mara as your starter at that point. If you get rid of iHeart, I feel like at that point that would make sense. They're going to trust these young guys a lot more, and they're going to be like, hey, we have the right coaching staff, we have the right training staff and trainers, we have the right main big 3 here in OKC to trust an Aday Mara to be able to be our starting center off the bat. It kind of seems a little fishy and weird that most teams, especially if they're, again, trying to stay in contention for a championship, that they would actually choose to do that, make that risk and trust it. But at the same time, like, sometimes that's what it takes, man, especially after you didn't actually end up winning it the next year. A slight little retooling like that, especially when, again, you have to shed contract like they have to do right now. Also, it feels like all the more reason why, if they pick Aday Mara here, iHeart's probably going to be sent out of there, because that's going to save them a lot of money. So, and they did actually make the pick, and they didn't trade it, as it appears. So that's always interesting. Let me actually go on to Twitter, check Shams, because I want to actually see Clams. I want to see if there has been any trades. There has not. I have a feeling the new guy is going to Dusty May bring in a Wolverine at 9. Well, they picked up Morez, right? Yeah. So yeah, they did. They literally picked a Michigan guy. That's actually pretty funny. Well, yeah, there you go. I've actually never heard of Dusty May. I'm assuming he got hired probably, therefore, from University of Michigan. All right. So anyway, we covered everything else I wanted to cover so far, just about. So of the 2 remaining topics, we have the head coaching hires. So I want to talk, and actually indirectly, I touched on the head coaches with the Bulls. So I guess I'll start there. Also, as a Blazers fan, right, it makes sense to start with Tiago Splitter. So there was a lot of people here, media and analysts, and even obviously mainly fans alike, who actually really did want to see Tiago Splitter rehired here long term in Portland for the Fail Tasers. But, as we all know, Tom Dunn was too busy with his thumb up his ass because his Hurricanes in the NHL were up in the Stanley Cup. Gotta go pay attention to that. Over in South Carolina. And so we just sat there. We did nothing. And it ended up working out for Tom Dundon, because tactically it ended up leading to, and I think to most people's surprise, Micah Nori didn't end up being hired by the Bulls, or by actually the Mavericks, or any of the other teams that needed a coach. And so he was, therefore, we were in Portland, we were the only option that Micah Nori had. We were the only option left. And for how long he's been in the coaching field in the NBA, which is 30 years, which is mind-blowing
I don't think I've heard of a guy who has been in the NBA in an assistant position, mainly behind the bench for the first half, as you'd figure, right? Because you got to work your way up from like video coordinator for the forward, and go figure that's exactly what Micah Nori started as, just like Spo, just like so many before him. But it's been 30 years. 30 years to this day that he was hired here on draft day by the Blazers. Either that was yesterday they hired Micah Nori here. And I'll get to Micah Nori in a moment, obviously. But the point being is that thumb up ass Tom Dundon, because his Carolina Hurricanes were in the Stanley Cup, the championship for the the NHL, obviously, National Hockey League. And all he cared about was that. And none of the other teams actually ended up hiring Micah, which, by the way, I don't understand why none of the other teams ended up hiring him. He's been the lead candidate for a head coaching job, especially from the assistant position, for, I think, like, the last 6 years. But especially in earnest, the last 3 years. Nothing. Every time they hire somebody else. The Mavs, one of their lead candidates was Micah Nori, but they hired this guy Dusty May, who again I assume was from the UMich, instead. Why is that? Like, genuinely, what happened? And why is he always getting bypassed in the end for the head coaching jobs? Because Micah Nori is literally raved about by players and by other coaching staffs and scouting departments across the entire NBA, and has been for years. And yet he keeps missing out on these head coaching contracts every single year. Why? It just doesn't make any sense. I can't figure that one out. If that's really the way it is, how is he never being hired until now? 30 years later. Like, that's a good little sleuth piece to really dig into, because it just doesn't make any sense. And also, if you're hearing my neighbors upstairs, apartment living, I apologize. They do this every day, sometimes at 4 a.m. I don't know. My mom assumes they're banging meat. They're like Asians and they're banging fucking meat and tenderizing it on the floor like they do. My theory, since it's always been the same spot for years, is that this is where right here, which is the living room in these apartments, they have an elliptical or something like that. And this does sound like an elliptical kind of a pattern thing. And it's for about as long as you'd expect for people to use an elliptical for a session. So I think it's an exercise piece. So when you hear that banging upstairs, if you do, because the AC is going to be loud. I apologize for that. Okay, anyway, so before we go all the way in and full in on Micah Nori, I do want to go a little further in on Tiago Splitter, obviously. Again, especially as a Blazers fan, it's going to be a good idea to talk a lot, or not a lot, but decently touch on Tiago Splitter. So again, as I mentioned earlier, when talking about the trade between the Nets, the Bulls, and the Timberwolves, Tiago Splitter was a very useful role-playing big man for the Spurs, obviously, for all the years he was with them. I think it was 2010 to 2014 was Tiago Splitter with them, from Brazil, obviously. And he was a very serviceable, very useful guy who, as we heard relentlessly through the playoffs this year, unfortunately, they just always had to say the same fucking tropes all over and over again on broadcasts in the playoffs every year. I swear to God. It drives me nuts. But anyway, they're like, yeah, so he won a championship with the Spurs. Former Spur Tiago Splitter. I think just about everybody and their dead grandmother knows that he's a former Spur and he won a championship with them in 2014. I'm pretty confident that's the case, my friends. You don't have to constantly fucking bang that dead horse with a mallet. But, so yes, former Spur, former champion with the Spurs. Very helpful in those series. It doesn't necessarily look like it in the statistics, right? The statistics were pretty basic. They were typical role player statistics. But Tiago was genuinely a very invaluable asset to the Spurs during his time there. He was actually one of the most sought-after big men, especially when he finally reached his free agency after that fourth year and the championship year in 2014.
And I don't think even if they had never won that championship with him in there, I guarantee that Tiago Splitter still would have retained a lot of like attention from teams and being like, yeah, bring him in. And then he ended up in, I think, Atlanta after that, and he actually played worse. So Greg Popovich, the people he was with, I don't know, made him better. But anyway, the point is that he was a very good big man with the Spurs. He won the championship with them, so he has that experience. And again, you have the Greg Popovich experience, and everybody knows to this day that like you have Pop in your corner, you're gonna be way better than like every other candidate out there, including as a coach, right? As a player, you're gonna be sought after. So all of that collectively is a hugely important set of details, as overstated as it always is. It still bears noting, because if you're looking at you gotta look at the whole picture, and if you're Chicago, those are good reasons to be like, I like this hire. Second reason, again, as I mentioned in referencing those trades, right, is that he's proven with the Portland Trailblazers that even under really awkward circumstances and without any real job security, right, because he was just the interim coach this entire time. Technically, he was never actually hired as our coach. He was just the interim. And the way kind of rules-wise and legally that works out contractually in the NBA means that he basically was kind of a ghost coach. Like, he was a ghost hire. And we technically never had... It basically is equivalent to... Oh, it's not even basically. It literally is equivalent to the fact that, hey, guess what? That's right. You're... sorry, I lost my train of thought. Damn it! I've been doing so good, but it's been 56 minutes in, and then it finally happens to me, and I can't get it back. Anyway, the point, yeah, he's proven through that turmoil here in Portland that even though we've technically, legally by rules, right, and contracts in the NBA, if you're an interim coach, you're not actually hired as the head coach. You're still an assistant coach officially, legally, by league rules and the contracts, right? So he was still an assistant. He wasn't technically a head coach. He was the interim head coach. That's how interims work apparently in the NBA. And so as a result, technically the Portland Trailblazers had a head coaching vacancy. We didn't have a head coach the entire season. So technically, that's got to be fucking with Tiago in his head too, along with not having any job security, right? Because the guy who hired him and brought him in for his staff just got fucking indicted and arrested and charged on frauds, mafia fraud schemes, basically, and charges, racketeering type of stuff and fraud. And so now he's technically, the guy who hired him isn't there. He's just kind of listlessly like now the interim head coach. The head coach vacancy, therefore, is a vacancy. It's not actually filled. And he dealt with that the entire season. He had just got there. He was actually one of the late hires. I think it was literally penultimate hire for the coaching staff. Like, they took a long time to where, like, I think it was, like, just near the start of training camp last season is when he was hired. And then the last guy, I think it was Patrick St. John, got hired on the head coach or the assistant coaching staff. What the fuck? Here's the thing, is that overseas, again, mentioning that is because, again, it's important since, as it proves, right, he's very good at adapting. Like, he doesn't let his situation distract him from his job and doing a good job of it and committing to his players and really helping them develop. Which brings us to that fourth piece, right? It's a huge boon to have a Tiago Splitter as your head coach. If you're in Chicago, well, you have these boons, right? Your fourth big boon in benefit of having him is because of the fact that he's proven overseas and in the NBA that he is an incredibly impactful guy and mentor for these young big men, right? He's such an invaluable development piece and asset to your team. And now think of him instead of an assistant coach, right, or what you think we should be training staff, but in other words, in this case, are your player development staff, right?
Tiago has proven overseas and in the NBA, he's one of the best at developing big men and getting the best out of young guys. Not just with Portland, not just with Atlanta, not just with multiple other teams he's been with as an assistant, but again, overseas as well. So if you're in Chicago, that's the fourth big boon as to why Tiago Splitter is actually a very, very underrated coach that you should be really excited for. Especially for somebody like Nick Claxton, right? Who needs a resurgence anyway. He needed a new change of scenery. He has it now. You now have Nick Claxton. To develop him is going to be huge. Obviously, as we all know, and as expected, they also drafted Caleb Wilson today. So, and he's technically a what do you call it? A tweener. He's a combo forward, right? He's a small forward, power forward, small forward, whichever way you look at it, and he can play some short center, small ball center. So Tiago could benefit him a lot too. And because you have that young team, and then you have the experience here in Portland showing that he is a great head coach and a great mentor and a great leader, and he really gets the best squeeze of the orange out of your young guys in your team, right? When he's your head coach. He proves that he is a guy who these guys really trust in. They confide in him. Other staff do, which is another huge boon, actually, the human aspect to it, right? He's a great humanitarian coach. He's very human. He balances that really well. He's very, very acutely aware of people's mental states and where they are and how they feel about their job positions at the moment or whatever else, or whatever. He has his finger on the pulse at all times. He proved that here as well. And so, that's a fifth big boon, right? He's going to be great for morale for that reason, both for players and his fellow staff on his coaching staff, right? He's going to be great to have in that reason. And here's the sixth reason, actually. You might think, well, this isn't really a boon. This is just... it's a nice quality to have, but don't they all have? No. Unfortunately, most coaches, at least in our experience here in Portland, do not have this quality to them. But Tiago has proven, especially in the playoffs, he does. And that is that he's willing to get technical fouls. He's willing to get called for techs because he's willing to show his emotion, and he's willing to, once, enough back calls stack, he's going to fucking let the referees know, and he's almost going to be hunting for attack. And especially in later game situations, that can really fire up your team, especially if your team's already struggling anyway. And then on top of that, the officials are doing what the officials in the NBA do, which is just being absolute idiots. Unlike Chauncey Billups, unlike Terry Stotts, unlike, all these other lackadaisical, non-emotive coaches that are just almost robotic sometimes, he fucking will put that emotion, not just on his sleeve, he shows it through a fucking bullhorn when it matters most. So in Chicago, you should be really happy that you have Tiago Splitter, and I guarantee you're going to find each of these qualities, if you pay close attention throughout the season, this next season, you're going to find these qualities are very, very accurate to Tiago Splitter as a coach. I feel like it does depend a little bit on the owner of the team, obviously, and those above him, and a little bit of those around him, and their mentalities. Obviously, you're always going to affect each other, and so it might affect his own morale, it might actually affect his own confidence, it might, there might be some conflicts here or there, but at the end of the day, hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully the ownership doesn't go metal or do other stuff, or isn't just a iron-fisted one. Doesn't seem like they are in Chicago. If we look at the last, basically since Derrick Rose tore his ACL, it's pretty clear Chicago has not had a good time. So welcome to the fucking party, Chicago, when it comes down to Northwest sports curses. But yeah, it sucks to be fans of the teams, or if you're the Pistons, you're a Pistons fan. Yeah, no, same thing. Okay, so now let's jump to Micah and Nori. So as I aforementioned a little bit ago, Micah Nori has been in the coaching field in the NBA, yes, the NBA, in the coaching field for 30 years as of this last season. It was his 30th season as an NBA coaching staff, Micah Nori. It's just insane to say because, again, if you look throughout NBA history, a guy who is as well renowned and appreciated by fellow coaching staffs, by fellow ownership groups, by media, by other players who rave about him, to take 30 years to get up the coaching ladder, to finally get a head coaching job is fucking disgusting. Honestly, I couldn't blame a guy if he was actually fucking, like, affronted by that. Because how could you not be? Like, you've been working your ass off for 30 years, 3 straight decades. Nobody, and I mean nobody, has actually given you that fucking shot and that chance to become their head coach. And only in the last 3 years, so year 27, year 28, year 29, year 30. 4 years. I can count. So I guess it's actually 28, 29, 30, right? These last 3 seasons of his. Has he actually been the leading candidate in the NBA to become the next head coach from an assistant coaching staff perspective? And again, like I said, everybody across the league, it's players, it is fellow coaches, it is media and faculty, analysts. Like, everybody has been agreeing that this dude deserves a head coaching job. He's just a really fucking great coach. He proved it, especially, I think it was playoffs before last, right? When Chris Finch got ran into by his own guy, and it literally ruptured his patellar tendon in the middle of a playoff game. I think it was one of the first games. And Micah Nori, of course, had to take over from there. But he did a phenomenal job. He literally helped coach them. He literally was the sideline coach. He was the interim head coach for Chris Finch throughout the playoffs. And he coached them into the fucking Western Conference Finals. He proved he's ready for a head coaching job and that he's really fucking good at that. And so that's even more puzzling as to why he could pull that off. And again, kind of like Tiago Splitter in that way. Micah Nori, the most unexpected, unpredictable situation. His own head coach that he's the elite assistant to gets his fucking patella tendon ruptured by his own player in the middle of one of the first playoff games of the season. And he coaches them all the way into the fucking finals, Western Conference Finals. That's nothing to fucking snuffle at, man. That is crazy. And again, 30 years experience and everything. This dude should have been a head coach, not even 3 years ago. He should have been a head coach, I feel like 5 to 7 seasons ago. Because he's proven himself so well. And again, all the raving about from all his fellow coaches, from media, from analysts, from fans, like, this dude is, players. This dude's been ready for at least a half a decade to be a long-term head coach for a team. And as I mentioned again earlier as well with that, in that regard, it's weird that once again this offseason, he's the lead candidate for the coaching staff, the head coach, for multiple different teams that needed a head coach, including obviously the Blazers. And they all ended up hiring these different fucking coaches. They didn't hire him at all. The person they end up hiring is somebody else. And it's just bizarre, because, like, again, the Mavericks, I keep emphasizing this, it's just bizarre as hell to me. The Mavericks hired a University of Michigan guy. They hired a guy from college to be their head coach over Micah Nori. I really need somebody to do sleuthing and dig in, especially that has access or has contacts associated or in the NBA that can help me grasp and wrap my brain around how the fuck that makes any sense. It's insane. And so, while Tom Dundon has his thumb up his ass, goofy, my Canes are in the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm gonna be in South Carolina the whole time. Fuck the head coaching hires. My team's gonna win a cup. And so then we it nearly fucked us over, obviously, for that reason, besides the fact that the reputation he's actually given himself since taking over, middle of I think it was like 3 games before the play-in tournament started, and then in the playoffs it got worse. And it's just like, this dude is making the worst possible reputation possible for a new owner. That's what he's doing. Like, he's making James Dolan, when he first took over, look like a bed of roses. Like, it's wild to me how just green this dude is when it comes into the NBA, and how uncaring he is. It's just, it shouldn't be surprising. He's a billionaire, you know. So yeah, I guess fair, but like still like, it's just really stupid because like you think you'd want the best out of your team, right? Especially considering his track record with the Canes is very quick and it's very good. Like he showed that he's willing to invest a lot of money in the team and everything. And so you think, okay, well, hiring Micah Nori, he's going to be the most expensive coach you can hire, just about, outside of obviously Jeff Van Gundy, the worst Van Gundy, because Stan Van Gundy is the only relevant Van Gundy, and I will fucking die on that hill. SVG's my guy. He's fucking hilarious, and he's weird, and and he's unfiltered. When he's unfiltered, he's the best. I fucking love that dude. He's a goofy ass motherfucker, but yet he's I think he's a really good coach, even though obviously his experience hasn't been the greatest. In that regard, in terms of records, but setback aside, outside of Jeff Van Gundy, he's probably Micah Nori is going to be the most expensive guy, right? And you'd assume that we're paying Micah Nori a lot, right, to be able to be our head coach. You'd be wrong. Exactly because of the fact that, again, like I said, right, all the other teams outside of the Blazers that needed a head coach had already hired somebody over Micah. I'll never get over how weird that is. To the extent of what that means, of course, right, is that Tom Dundon just got a gold mine plopped directly into his lap and his clutches, to where he now had all the cards, he had all of the leverage over a coaching hire, specifically for somebody like Micah Nori, who again has been trying to gain a head coaching job for the last 3 to 5 straight seasons and has kept getting hired, kept not getting hired because somebody else somehow ends up taking his place out of being the lead position just about every single time for every team that's been hiring over the last 3 to 5 seasons. And again, he's been in this league coaching for 30 years. So at a certain point, these guys either just retire or they just become reserved to the fact they're forced to be stuck as a lead assistant and nothing more. And that they're never going to get that job because now they're getting too old, or they've been around too long, and it starts to warp the perception that you have of you. They have of you as a coach candidate. So in a way, it's almost as if you could, you would literally argue, right, that Micah Nori therefore didn't have a choice. At this point, 30 years in, he didn't have a choice anymore. If he's going to get a head coach job, it's now or never, and so he had to accept whatever the fuck the terms were. And the terms are fucked up if you're Micah Nori. They are really shitty terms. But he agreed to them, probably exactly because he understood that, like, it's now or never for him at this point. It's been 5 years of trying to get a head coaching job. He's been passed up every fucking time. This is the 30th year he's been in the coaching realm in the NBA in the first place. This dude needs to take whatever job he can get at this point as a head coach. Whoever offers him it, no matter what the contract's like, he's got to do it. And Tom Dundon's proven he's a very cheapskate guy. He's very chintzy, and all he wants to do is cut corners in terms of costs. So Micah Nori got absolutely shafted. He got so fucked over by the one team being left over to be able to hire for a head coaching job was Tom Dundon's Blazers, because Tom Dundon held all the cards, and he does. He held the full control and power of the position, and so guess what happens? He's able to give him a contract that is very predatory, and it is so bad for Micah Nori. I feel terrible for Micah Nori because he has zero job security with this contract, because it's an unprecedented contract that we've never seen or heard of before. I don't think in league history it's ever been given to a coach, a head coach. This is an NBA head coach, and he has a one by one contract is what he signed with the Blazers to be our head coach. So he's a 1 year this year, He's a team option next year, and then a team option in the third year. Meaning that for 3 straight seasons, Tom Dundon holds all the cards. And if you're Micah Nori, yeah, you kind of had to accept it because 30 years in, everything is set, right? You don't have a choice at this point. If you want to be a head coach, you want to prove yourself as a head coach, you have to take what you get. This is all he had left, was a very predatory owner who you knew, and if you're Micah Nori and you're intelligent, you know he's going to take full advantage of this, and he's going to take full advantage of you, and he's going to hold all the cards, and you're going to get shafted for it. He got really shafted for it. We don't know the total, it hasn't been released publicly, obviously, yet, the actual literal contract in terms of the amount that he's getting paid each year of the contract as a head coach for the Blazers. But because it's a team options, it's all but guaranteed that Micah Nori is going to be it's going to be a cheap contract, like way below what normally a guy of Micah Nori's experience and repertoire deserves and would normally get at the lowest end of the NBA coaching spectrum. But that out of the way, though, the contract aspect and him being hired here in Portland for the Blazers, I have to give him his commendation for, again, the 30 years of experience he has and how well he's proven himself as a lead assistant coach and even, yes, as an interim head coach under extremely awkward and unpredictable circumstances when Chris Finch had his patella tendon ruptured early in the first round of that playoffs. I think it was last season 4 last. You know, like he literally coached them to a WCF, seemingly out of nowhere, right? He's been raved about, like I said, by head coaches across the league. He's been sought after by them to lead their staff. He's been in 30 years says a lot, right? He has 30 years of experience. And this is 2 different eras at least before the current one that therefore he's coached in, right? So he has a lot of different mentalities and different schemes and sets on both defense and offense between each of the coaches that he's worked for. From video coordinator like Spo, right? He started as a janitor, then video coordinator. So coaching experience-wise, Eric Spoelstra started as a video coordinator, but he got the fucking job, I think it was under 10 years he got the head coaching job. Whereas Mike Norrie's been working for 30 years! 30 years to get a head coaching job. From video coordinator, he finally gets it, but it's a predatory fucking contract because he had to take it. It's been 30 years. If he's going to get a head coaching job at all, he has to take it with us because we were the only ones left in Portland. Tom Duncan's being predatory. 1 + 1 + 1. As if he's the second round rookie, right? That's just been picked in an NBA draft. But it's like, it's crazy. So this dude, I know Micah Nori is going to absolutely kill it as a head coach for us, especially as long as Tom Duncan doesn't go meddle too much and kind of fuck him over or like try to say, I'm going to veto this play scheme, this scheme. I'm going to veto this rotation or something because maybe he thinks that, oh, that's not going to make as much money or as much attention as this rotation, right? That is genuinely something that happens in the NBA, especially with owners, is marketing. That's why it's an option in games now, right? And has been for years. If you're an owner or GM, it's like, hey, you can control it to where you can say, nah, this coach, you have these traits, these are your points of emphasis, but I'm going to change that. Number 1 needs to be marketability, right? That's, again, I feel like another unsung aspect that people, especially fans, don't usually think about is that, like, there is a lot of meddling that can happen in coaching from ownership. And the number 1 thing a lot of times is marketability. They're like, I don't really like these guys on the roster as much as like these guys, because these guys, to me, they sell more tickets, they get more watching on the, more watches, more views, that's what we're looking for, on TV and on streaming for our team, and that makes me more money. So you're going to play like this, I'm going to veto those schemes on offense and this scheme on defense because people complain about those the most. This is the ones that sell the most, even if they aren't the most efficient and they don't really help the team that much win necessarily. At least, hey, I'm going to make more money theoretically out of this. So hopefully Tom doesn't go meddle in that way with Micah Nori. But at the end of the day, man, I'm very happy that we had to get him. I'm just very upset about the circumstances on behalf of Micah Nori because he deserves so fucking much better than how he's been overlooked for the last 5 straight seasons for head coaching positions. It genuinely doesn't make any sense. Again, I cannot, I would love, I mean, I know these never get much views, but seriously, especially in the VOD after this stream is done, if you have any kind of insider information or connections, that you have any confidence in those connections, and you can communicate with them and ask them to help you sleuth and investigate as to why this has been the case for Micah Nori and why he's been the favorite from analysts, from fellow coaching staff, from even scouts, and obviously other players to become a head coach for the last 5 straight seasons, and yet somehow he keeps getting bypassed and the other guys get hired, including straight out of college over him. Let me know. I would love to see what you have to say in the comments, because that would be valuable to me. I am always a curious and kind of forensic-minded person, so that is something I almost need to figure out. And so if you have those kind of connections, for the love of God, please help a guy out and sleuth on why the last 5 seasons he's been bypassed, because it doesn't make any sense as a head coach. But I know he's going to kill it for the Blazers, despite the circumstances. He's going to be an incredible head coach, and I am very happy that he was the hire that they picked over Jeff Van Gundy, over these other guys, Sweeney and so on and so forth, and that we got him instead. So to conclude this live stream and chat, I do want to take a look at what else has happened. So I didn't mention it, I don't think, but I did watch it happen. OKC did keep the 12th pick, and they picked Aday, in fact, indeed. Over the last month, again, people have been mocking Aday the most to 12 to obviously OKC. They just did that. And so I just want to gesture you back onto earlier, like 25 to 40 minutes ago, when I had mentioned that I would not be remotely surprised if this means that OKC is in fact going to look to sign and trade, or just trade away Isaiah Hartenstein, right? Because they need to save a lot of money. This saves them a lot of money if they do that. And again, you're getting Thomas Schwarber back next season. He didn't actually, I don't think he played much. If he did, he didn't. Or if he didn't, then, well, secondly, it's going to be delayed rookie year, right? Because it's going to be into next season as a backup. So I would feel like they're going to try to trade away Isaiah Hartenstein. I doubt they just let him walk, but then that also might be beneficial financially for them long term. And then they might not have to trade away as many people, other younger guys, since they need to be re-signed, right? So they took Aday, the Bucks with the 13th pick that was originally obviously Miami's. They picked up a Nate Ament, which a lot of people figured they'd take Nate Ament anyway, but I think they figured they'd take him at 10. They took him at 13, and they got Braden Burries instead at 10. So now they have Braden Burries and they have Nate Ament. Hans Steinbach has been selected to the Hornies, and Dalen Swain has been taken by the Bullion Cubes. That was our pick originally here in Portland. So you get our head coach, interim head coach, Tiago, and you get your stupid little pick back, motherfucker. Yeah, they picked Dalen Swain. And then the Fizzlies have picked up Bennett Sturts. And OKC has a minute left on their clock to pick for pick 17. And there's a chance, obviously, they might do a last-second trade of it. Again, for saving money, I feel like it's a very Sam Presti thing to do. I feel like he's going to keep that pick, and he's just going to do that. And maybe later, like up towards the trade deadline in the season, he might look to trade some of these guys. Saving more money. It's hard to say. So, yeah. That said, though, that's going to do it for this live stream chat. I'm excited. I just wanted to mention one more thing about Micah Nori is that obviously both Nikola Jokic and Anthony Edwards absolutely fucking rave about Micah Nori, and they absolutely love the absolute life out of him. Like literally
even over the head coaches that they've ever had, both Joker and Ant, man, absolutely adore Micah Nori. So, and again, I feel like that says a hell of a lot about him as a coach and as a person. So it's all the more reason why it's pretty exciting to have him. For sure, yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch him coach. So I wanted to throw that one out there as well. Until next time, thank you for watching this, whether you watched it live or you watched it in the VOD. Greatly appreciate it. Like I said, if you have any kind of even loose connections to media into the NBA or the NBA itself, somehow, it's unlikely, possibly, then I would love to see if you could sleuth for me as to what, or even if you actually might have some tidbits of information as to why already, right? As to why Micah Nori had been bypassed these last 5 seasons by every other team who's ever been hiring a head coach, even though he's literally raved about by everybody. And everyone's like he's the next up for the last 3 to 5 straight seasons. It's just bizarre to me. I can't figure that out. You'd almost swear it has to be a character issue, but then that's literally exactly probably the number one thing that everyone raves about him for. It's his character. So it's kind of, even media raves about him for his character because they love his interviews. Oh God, they love his interviews. They rave about it all the time. It's not just, Mike Richmond from Locked On Blazers raves about it. Everybody raves about it because I think he's just hilarious as a interviewer. And that's great. I love that. Everybody needs some good comedy relief too. And when you don't take yourself too seriously, like you still take it fully seriously, obviously. But you can be unserious while being serious at the same time. That's the best part. And when you find that balance, like apparently Micah Nori does, it's gonna be great for everybody, I think. So yeah, I'm excited about that. But anyway, like I said, that is that. Thank you so much for watching. And let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Oh, I forgot. Actually, no, I'm not done because I forgot. I was just talking about the fucking Blazers, wasn't I? like offhand, I've referenced talking about the Blazers a little bit. So let me actually do that. Because obviously the main thing I wanted to talk about with the Blazers is, again, the trade aspects, right? Because most people around the league, fans, analysts, so on and so forth, they've been, for years, obviously now, they've been like, they need to try to trade away JG's contract. They're probably going to at some point, blah, blah, blah. Again, nothing's ever came of that. We got supposedly close-ish, like a season or 2 ago, I think. But the talks fell through pretty quick. And it was, especially it was season before last, dude. That was a career just hellfire of a year for him. It was absolutely terrible fucking year. It wasn't just a down year. It was a miserable, hellacious year. Even as a fan to just watch because of how obvious it was that he was just not even struggling. He was just non-existent. Like, he just absolutely shat the bed. He did so terribly. I would love to finally see him off this team. Plus, age-wise, that makes sense. It saves us some money long-term, obviously. So it'd be great to get him off of there. Then re-sign Rob. I want to have Time Lord re-signed. And obviously, with Giannis getting traded to Miami, that trade died, right? And in fact, actually, it kind of changes the dynamics around the supposed Jaylen Brown trading scenarios, right? Because the Blazers are very hooked up and attached to the Celtics box, trade debates for Giannis for Jaylen Brown, right? That was pretty much the main thing. But there's other teams that could potentially trade for Jaylen Brown. It's just that the odds is that obviously the Celtics won't trade Jaylen Brown if they can't get a Giannis quality player back. It just doesn't make any sense for them unless they really do decide, fuck it, we'll just we'll do a hard reset, like, or an aggressive retooling, right? Like, that's possible too. Especially decide to keep Jason Tatum, despite the fact that he proved he came back way too early from his Achilles tear last season. And he played not great. Like, you could tell he was very apprehensive and hesitant to play normally because he just wasn't comfortable.
And understandably, because I knew that would happen, because the dude just rushed himself back way too fast. And I understand why he did, but it's just like, bro, you gotta fucking let dogs lie. You're not helping yourself long term either, because you're gonna give yourself more chronic problems if you do not let it properly heal and fully rehab. Like, that's just dumb of you. But, so yeah, like, but because of that, though, yeah, the odds are they're not going to be trading Jaylen Brown at all now. Between Giannis and Jaylen Brown, I would have, I can't say it, that would be definitely exaggerated. I would have preferred Jaylen Brown, obviously, because if you're going to take on 2 really big contracts, because obviously you're not going to trade for Giannis unless you genuinely believe you can convince him to re-sign with you. And he's obviously not going to take less than a max. You already know that. And if he does take a pay cut, it's going to be like max $20 million over the entire course of the contract, like LeBron and everyone else always does with these. I think Giannis actually did with his last contract. He's like, okay, fine, I'll take a pay cut, I'll be generous, and it's like $20 million over 5 years. And it's like, bro, that doesn't do anything. Like, you need to take a much bigger paycheck cut at that point. If really all you care about is winning and winning championships, and helping your team make the best possible, run in free agency and trades, you have to take so much more of a sacrifice to your salary. And plus, you would want to, because you know that that's what's needed. And guess what? It would show actual humility rather than like, oh, I took a pay cut of $12 million. I took a pay cut of $25 million. But you still have a $200+ million contract for 5 years. What do you fucking mean you took a pay cut? Like, you're generous. Fuck off. It's one of the most dumb things in the world. Like, take a bigger pay cut. If you really mean it, take a big ass pay cut. Take like a 40, 50 million. Actually, really a 50 million is probably a good average for the contracts that we have now, especially maxes. If they took a $50 million pay cut, it's still not hardly putting a dent in their fucking contracts. I mean, like, God forbid if it was a $250 million contract for 5 years. Congratulations, it's now a $200 million contract. Fuck off. Like, it's still not very, yikes. It's still not very much, So it's just, it proves they don't actually mean what they say. Because if they did, but then again, contract rules might actually prevent them from taking a bigger pay cut. Like, I've always thought about that. Like, if I was in the NBA and I was in that position, say if it was an alternate universe and I was actually a really skilled athlete and I was in the NBA, I would want to take the biggest possible pay cuts. But the thing is that I feel like the NBA wouldn't allow me to. They'd be like, no. The rules state you can only take this much of a pay cut at maximum. And it's going to be this minute amount. And I'd be like, but that's bullshit. Like, I want to take a much bigger pay cut because A, I'm already going to be making, including with sponsorship deals, shoe deals, everything else, I'm already making a fuck ton of money. I don't fucking need any more than that. And plus, I'm smart enough financially, I fucking reinvest my fucking income, my salary, right? Like, so that it's making passive income. So that not only do I benefit after I retire and never really have to worry about money ever again, but nor do like my own kids in the future, nor do any of their kids. At least 2 generations outside of myself no longer have to worry about it ever, and they don't even have to take a job anymore because they're taken care of. Like, because I'm making sure I'm diversified as all fucking hell, financially in terms of investments. Like, I don't need all this extra, $100+ million contract. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why can't I dictate the terms of my own fucking contract? Especially if I'm that good of a player that I get a max. It financially and business-wise just doesn't make any sense that the NBA wouldn't let me dictate my own terms of my own contract. You know what I mean? Like, at least on the bottom end. Like, the top end, obviously you're going to fucking put, securities in there, right? You're going to put legalities that say that you don't have full control over this because obviously you're going to try to take as much as possible. Anyone would do that at that point, just about. It's very rare to have somebody like, myself in this instance, in this example, right, that would actually want a big-ass pay cut because it's like, I don't need this. Like, I will never need it again. Like, why do you force me to take it? Like, just, why can't top end? Keep it. Keep the fucking controls in place. But bottom end, let me fucking negotiate myself into a $7 million 4-year contract if I want to. You know what I mean? Like, it it's stupid. It's just dumb. And I guess like financial scandals, right? Okay, fine. Because a lot of even your program to make sure that these people are financially literate, you know, your players, you know, right? Because that's what every rookie gets assigned this like fiduciary by the NBA, and they get put through these financial classes so that way they don't like just go and spend all their fucking money before they even have it. Because most rookies actually have always done that. They spend their money long before they actually even need it. Because obviously it's over time, it's per game, right? Per minute played. So it's like this doesn't. What are you doing? You know, like you don't actually have that money yet, and there's no guarantee. Nobody knows the future. You could get a fucking catastrophic injury, and you don't make anything off of your rookie contract. Like you might even lose a chance to be able to play at all, right? So it's like, what are you doing? So I guess if you argue that department, right? Okay, fine. Put some fucking restrictions on bottom end contract negotiations for the players' fault. Fine. But make sure they're still very small. They're minimal amounts of interventions and blockades. Make sure they make sense to where, like, if I am able to earn a supermax contract, or even just a max contract, or even just below a max contract, you know, the maximum amount I'm allowed to be paid, and let's say it's like 90 million over 4 years, or it's 128 million over 4 years, let's say, right? Okay, cool. Or say 128 over 5. Cool. That's fine. But why can't I now just decide, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to negotiate down because I don't need this anymore because I'm good with my money. I've diversified massively. Let me fucking negotiate down to from 100 and, you know, the normal minimum requirement that you want me to take, which is like, oh, okay, normally nowadays it would be like, say, 90 million, like Tumani Kamara, $90 million, I think, over 5 years is what he signed for. Great, okay, cool. How about the bottom end? Because it's not going to negatively impact the team or anybody else in the top end. Let me negotiate my bottom end. Let me negotiate down to, instead of, if I don't want to take 90 over 5 years, let me take 50 over 5 years. Why am I not allowed to do that? You know, it doesn't make any fucking sense. That's a side tangent. Anyway, so again, like, I would have preferred Jaylen Brown again because obviously you're expecting, if you trade for Giannis, you're expecting him to be convinced to resign, right? He's going to resign with you. Fantastic. Okay, cool. You know he's going to take a max, if not a super max. It's the last one he'll ever probably get. Good for him. Great. That's why I don't want Giannis, right? Because, again, he's older. He's 32 plus. He's proven that he's now becoming somewhat chronically injury-issued or problematic, you know, prone, right? And again, with that age, that's not a great sign. With his play style, that's arguably a lot worse because it's going to keep getting worse. Because again, that's how he plays. It's going to get more and more chronic. So that's something you have to consider if you're a GM. And you know, the last thing you need, especially when you're retooling and you're rebuilding and you're trying to finish a rebuild, is to take on a contract that will make or break you like that. But if you do so, you never take a guy who's 30 plus and is a max contract guy. If you're going to take on that kind of money, it's got to be a Jaylen Brown type. He's already proven himself too. He's a Finals MVP, right? He's great. He can carry the team. He carried fucking Boston this year. Like, this dude is elite. He really is. When you take him, and he's all around. He's a two-way guy, which is even better. That's great. It's not a fucking Damian Lillard. It's not a CJ McCollum. It's not a fucking Trae Young. It's not a Anthony Simons, right? He's not just a one-way guy. He's not just a one-trick pony. He's all around. He's a two-way player. That's great. I think what is he, 28 now? I think he's either 26, 27, 28 years old. I think he might be 27 or 28. Okay, cool. That's a little up there if he's 28, but he just roughly fits the timeline. You get the veteran experience. With a guy who's still young, he's entering or he's literally in his athletic prime. He's shown to stay relatively healthy and be relatively durable and reliable in terms of availability. He's a two-way guy. He's great at that. He has a great motor in that sense. You know, like, and so if you're going to take on that kind of max money, why in the fuck would you take on Giannis when you could take on Jaylen Brown, right? So I would have preferred Jaylen Brown over Giannis by a long shot. And even then, I still wouldn't have wanted Jaylen Brown because the amount we'd have to give up for that would have been kind of brutal, and that sucks. And I don't want to, you know, trade up into not just incredibly spendy, lethally expensive contracts, but I also wouldn't want to do that and then on top of it, you know, take on age. And it's a 1 for like 3 player guy, you know what I mean? Like that's not great, you know, like you gotta have a balanced attack if you're GM in this regard, especially if you're the Blazers GM, Joe Cronin. You gotta be better about it. You just do. It doesn't make any sense not to be. So I'm glad that we didn't end up getting Giannis, because it was made very abundantly clear over the last like season and a half, I think, that the Blazers have been aggressively trying to get Giannis. And I'm so glad it never happened and it finally permanently fell through. Because, again, he's 32 going on 32 or 33, I think, right now. So now that he's in Miami, and obviously they feel, and it's inevitable he's going to resign with them, and it's going to be a max. He's out of the picture. There's no way at this point that, and over the next 2 seasons, the Blazers are going to still want to get him and go gung-ho for him. It's just done and dusted. And I'm very happy about that for those reasons. Jaylen Brown, But I still feel, and obviously, again, like I said, right, between the Giannis trade happening to Miami, I feel like that all but guarantees that Jaylen Brown is not getting traded at all this year, right? He's just not going to. Not unless there's another big blockbuster trade and it's for another guy who is at his level, like Giannis, right? I want to say like KD, Steph, or LeBron, but the problem is, of course, is that they're all ancient. So, I mean, they're not going to do that either, obviously. There's no way, I feel like, possible to do that. That would not make any sense. So, I mean, who do you go for at that point? Obviously, that being Bam off limits, I feel like. Because there's no way that the Heat would ever dare trade Bam after trading and getting Giannis in. That just doesn't make any sense. Why would you trade Bam after getting Giannis? Because then that means that you should have just fucking traded Bam for Giannis instead. Like, what are we doing there, you know? So obviously it's clear that wouldn't happen either. And if it does, there needs to be a crucifixion of Pat Riley at this point. Holy fuck. But anyway, that dude is beyond washed up. That dude is detrimental to his team at that point. But yeah, so it's obviously it's not going to happen. Yeah, we all know that. At the end of the day, though, this then leads to another problem that I have for the Blazers, which is that now they're hell-bent on day-to-day street clothes Davis, who, by the way, I think is 33 right now, going on 34. Maybe he is 34 now. I'm pretty sure he's 33 then. I think he's 33 going on 34. He's more brittle than an autumn leaf getting pulverized by a semi-truck at 70 miles an hour. That's at a full load. It's an oversized load semi. Fuck it. It's going downhill. And it's going at 70 plus miles an hour downhill on the interstate. And it just pulverizes the fucking autumn leaf. That's Anthony Davis. And he's expensive. And now we're trying to get him. Why? In what universe does this make a lick of sense? Like, bro, like, I will give one thing to it, which is that, yes, we've needed a true power forward since LaMarcus left. LaMarcus left, what was it, 2013-14 season, off-season, I think? It was 2014-15 off-season. Must have been 2014-15 off-season. He left, right, for San Antonio. Okay, cool. I've never had any problems, by the way, with LaMarcus leaving. He left for all the right reasons. And I have no doubt in my heart and mind he did want to stay a Portland Trailblazer for life. But this team fucking shafted him. They didn't shaft him. They fucking backstabbed the guy. Fucking yes, go home. You know, like, they proved that they're not loyal. They don't give a fuck about you. Leave. And that's what he did, you know. And he literally rationally explained that's what happened, right? Like, they promised him that he was gonna have fully have the ownership of the keys of the franchise in his hands. He was gonna be the number one guy in offense. He was gonna be the captain, team captain, and leader. And he was gonna be literally the franchise player, right, for the future.
They promised everything to him. But there was a problem. They drafted Damian Lillard. And they backstabbed LaMarcus for that. Because they immediately handed the keys to the franchise to Dame as a rookie. Immediate. How do you not feel some kind of way if you're LaMarcus at that point? You're promised to be given the keys to the franchise. You're promised to be the number one option. You're promised to be the captain and the leader of your team. And they fucking backstab you like that? And then they just expect you to be cool with it? Fuck that. Absolutely fuck that. So I've never had any problems with LaMarcus leaving. He left for all the right reasons, the same reasons I would leave. It makes perfect sense. He was violated, so he left. And he went home. Well, close to home. Obviously, it's from Dallas, not San Antonio, but it's close. So, understandable. I was really close to his family and his kids, and I have to respect the fuck out of that for sure, too, dude. Like, that, I totally do. That's amazing. That's a beautiful thing. Good on LaMarcus. I hope he gets his jersey retired here in Portland. I really do. But if and when that happens, they need to try in some way to force Brandon Roy against his will to have his jersey retired as well. And a sleeper guy to have a jersey retired. I want Nikola Batum to have his jersey retired, man. He deserves to have it retired for the positive impacts and all the impacts he had on this team, man, and how popular he was here. That dude needs his jersey retired. He needs to be respected. So, like, if you could get all three of those guys in and retire the jerseys at the same time, at the same ceremony, make it a really big, special thing collectively with them, that would be one of the most beautiful things in the world. And as a Blazers fan, my heart would be singing. I'd be so fucking thrilled. I'd be so proud and happy. I'd be the happiest motherfucker on the face of this earth, I feel like. And then obviously a very, very arrogant, self-righteous pick would be Rudy Fernandez's 5. It's just like, retire my number 5, motherfucker. I don't care all the lies and slander you made up about this motherfucker to get him out of Portland. He didn't deserve it, and none of it was true, and it was blatantly obvious from the start. This dude's amazing. I love the fuck out of him. He's one of my favorite players. I still have his jersey, and that's the one I even wear it over Nikola Batum's jersey. I have both. I always wear Rudy's jersey every time I've ever been to a Blazers game. Whenever I go in person, I immediately put that jersey over my shirt because I want to show it off with pride. Like, I really respect the fuck out of Rudy. I love him to death. He's such a fun player to watch. And it's actually kind of funny because I'm also a defensive guy. I love defenders most. That's why Tiago Kamara is literally my favorite player in the league, not just my favorite player on the Blazers. So I have the utmost respect for Rudy as well. And I love the fuck out of him. And obviously, as a rotational bench guy that we didn't have that long, obviously it's not even realistic. It's just for my own shits and giggles. I'm like, I want to throw his name out there as a jersey retirement because the dude I loved him. He was great. It would be fucking funny as hell, and it would blindside everybody. But dude, I would be so happy. Just out of my own fanfare, I'd be like, fuck yeah. Deserved. Okay, but anyway, that noted, what was my point for... I was a little bit of a side tangent again. Right, so yeah, because LaMarcus left 2014-15 offseason, ever since then, we haven't had a true power forward in Portland. So the Blazers have needed a true, real, bona fide power forward that can lead this team and lead that position since literally 2014. Okay, 2015. Since 2015, maybe it was 2014. I think it was 2015, man. Yeah, since 2015, we have not had a true power forward. It's been 11 seasons, and 11 years, and we haven't had a true power forward on the team at all. We've had these weird filler players, Mo Harkless. How could you be so heartless? Obviously, Alfredo Camino. Aminoacidosis. We had... I wanted to say J.J. Hickson, but he played center with us. I don't actually remember everybody, honestly. We had Jared Jeffries. Oh yeah, we had Kurt Thomas play. It was 38, 39, 40 or something like that. Playing about lead power forward. Jared Jeffries was 35 or 36 when he led our power forward position for us. I mean, we were really throwing shit at the wall when it came down to playing power forward. And then ever since, pretty much, we've had JG playing power forward ever since we traded for him. And it's like, I think we literally tried both Zach Collins and also Myers Leonard at power forward for a while as well. Like, we were genuinely throwing shit at the wall to try to solve our power forward issue. And we just settled on Mo Harkless and sometimes Aminu Al-Farouk for the years we had them. And then I think we tried Roko, didn't we? Like, he's obviously natural small forward. I think we actually played him at power forward while he was here. For what was it, season and a half, I think we had him? 2 seasons. He was playing a power forward out of position, and it's like, throwing shit at the wall, throwing shit at the wall, throwing shit at the wall. Never worked. And now we're playing JG. Ever since we got traded for JG, now we've been playing JG at power forward, and he's not a power forward. He's a small forward, bro. Like, what are we fucking doing? You know, like, get a true fucking power forward for once here in Portland. For the love of God, please. Let's actually get a true power forward, a genuine bona fide power forward who's built like a power forward, who plays like a power forward, and a more traditional power forward, right? That's what we need. We need a kind of a little bit of an enforcer bruiser at power who can really properly score, has a nice little post fade, nice little post hook, has various other post moves to shake it up with, post spin, up fake, you know, drop step, I mean, combos, bro, come on. That's some of the most fun offense too, is those kind of guys who just fuck around and dominate the paint. And throw people off, your defenders off, it's so much fun. So we need that. So that's a really long-winded way to say it. It's like, so to give credit and point to the AD trade idea, you know, because he is technically a true power forward, so like, fair. And he only wants to play power forward, much like LaMarcus, much like J.J. Hickson, actually. We have a bad history with that, by the way. But thankfully we have a bunch of centers, especially if we re-sign Rob, which I really hope we do. And then we get AD. Well, he'd be playing power forward, obviously the starter. The thing is, problematically, like I said, he's 33 plus, and he's more brittle than an autumn leaf who's been pulverized by a semi going 70 plus miles an hour downhill on an interstate. That's not an exaggeration to say. Like, there's a reason why he's called Day-to-Day Davis and Street Close Davis. He's never available. And every time he comes available, immediately there's another injury that takes him out for, like, 16 months straight. And literally his team and his camp and the staff and both Washington, D.C. and in Dallas have stated that, like, no, yeah, it's 100% guaranteed for the rest of his career he can only play half the games in a season. He cannot play back-to-back. So maybe at max he might play 52 games in a season. But, like, odds are he's going to play somewhere. Apparently just randomly disconnected for a minute. Yeah, so that's just, like, insane to think about, right? So why trade for him, especially for as expensive as AD is? Answer me that. It doesn't make any sense. It's a really torrid idea, especially if you want to make that leap. Why would you trade for AD? Make it make sense. Like, let's get an actual power forward that isn't brittle and hopefully isn't over 30. That would be primal. That would be perfection. That'd be great. Let's get something like that. Not Anthony Davis. And at that point, if we can't pull that off, don't trade at all. Just stick with it. Work through the first half of the season. If JG stays healthy, we can build his value back up. Hopefully he'll be able to be traded. Now, one final set of things about the Blazers I want to talk about in terms of trades, because this is really the only thing I want to talk about at that point, and I have left to talk about with the Blazers, is that contrary to what all these other fans have keep saying, right, is that they want to say that Shae should be untouchable. I could not personally disagree more. Shae should actually literally be right there with JG as the prime trade candidates, the trade bait that we have, the lead assets in a trade. Trade, not Scoots. Most fans would rather trade Scoot than would trade Shae. I could not be more against that and completely opposite stance on that. It's literally the reverse. You've got to, well, not literally the reverse as it was, then I'd say that I would consider Scoot to be near untouchable or untouchable. I don't consider him to be either of those things, but he's definitely not the one you want to trade. You want to trade Shae. I don't know what it is about Portland fans and obsessing over a guy who they always say has such high potential, and they've had for like 3+ seasons, and they're like, well, now we got to keep resigning him. And now that we keep resigning him, we got to keep him around because he's never had enough of opportunity. He can still develop and become a superstar.
like they did with Nikola Batum. As much as I love Nikola Batum, he had to go, and he went way too late because we traded him when he was 28 years old and 7 seasons in with the team. Why did you wait that long? It doesn't make literally any sense. What are we fucking doing? And fans were mad at the time when we traded him because like it wasn't he didn't get an opportunity. He wasn't here long enough. 7 years and 28. What more could you ask for? Myers lost puppy Leonard, motherfucker, dumbass, clueless motherfucker on the court at all times. This lost puppy of Myers Leonard, we had on the roster for 7 years as well before we traded him to Miami. 7 straight seasons of hell and suffering, having to hear Myers Leonard's name mentioned by our PA, by Mark. I'm not remembering his last name right now. It's giving me instead of fucking meteorologist Mark Nelson. Mark, not Manson. Mark Mason. You just literally dread, pure dread and hate and contempt. Every time you heard it, you got depressed. And you needed some Lexapro or some other antidepressant because you're like, fuck, not Myers again. 7 years. And the amount of people here in Portland that were fucking livid that we traded him was insane because they insisted. We never gave him enough minutes. We never gave him enough opportunity. We never played him enough. And he still is so young and he has so much potential he could still fill. But I have genuinely never seen a more IQ-less, literally absent of any levels of... He had zero, literally, not exaggerating, he had zero IQ as a basketball player. Not only that, he had, like, sub-zero awareness at all times on both ends of the floor. Like, this dude was literally incompetent as a basketball player. He looked lost as fuck at all times. He literally went and, like, was having an existential crisis in the middle of a clutch moment on the fucking court that Noah Vonleh saved the fucking game for us and won it for us because he, unlike Myers having a fucking existential crisis, like having an aneurysm, actually fucking did what he was supposed to do, fought for the rebound, got it, and put it in, beat the buzzer, we won the game. Myers Leonard, meanwhile, is sitting here literally going like this the whole time. Like, he's about to fucking, I don't know, like, he's about to he's constipated and he's trying to force a block out. Like, this motherfucker was fucking driving me insane. And literally when we finally traded him, they're like, he didn't get enough minutes, he didn't play enough games, he didn't start well enough, he's still too young, he still had too many, he wasn't played, he didn't have enough years under his belt with us. We ruined him because he didn't give enough minutes. He averaged over 25 minutes a game in the 7 years he's with the Blazers. Fuck out of here. These fans in Portland are also some of the most delusional in this league. Don't get that twisted. They fucking are. And it drives me fucking insane. And they're doing the same thing that they did with Nikola Batum, and that they did with Myers Leonard, and that they did with CJ McCollum, and that they did with Anthony Simons. They're doing with fucking Shae Sharp. Why? Like, nobody learns here in this fan base, and then also pisses me off, because it's like we've literally had 4, or is that 5? No, it's 5. We have had 5 other motherfucking players in just the last 11 seasons. Yeah, in the last 11 seasons, we've had 5 players. 5 different players in the last 11 seasons that the fans every time were pissed when we traded them away, when they were literally closing in on their 30s and they've been here for at least 7 years. Ant's been here for 7 years before we traded him to Boston. And then Boston, by the way, and Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla proved me right. Had they been right the entire time for the entirety of Anthony Simons' career, that he fucking sucks and that he is a genuinely detrimental player to the success of your team in winning games. He's literally was exactly as I had advertised him for years while he was here in Portland. And they proved me right, sweet motherfucking vindication, because he ended up being traded there, played not even a full half season in Boston, a, championship contender that was outperforming Not at all because of him, because they actually did better once he was out of there and in Chicago. Who would have thunk it? And this is funny because he ended up doing better and having a more towards a positive impact on the Celtics when they moved him for the last like near month they had him on the roster in Boston. They moved him to a 6-man role. He played way better than he ever had in his career as a starter. Exactly as I said. If he has a role in this league, Anthony Simons is strictly a 6-man. There's nothing else he can be. Because he is that bad of a player and he hurts your fucking team. The only way he might be able to actually be a net positive on your team is if he's a 6-man and he's leading the offense for your bench. Joe Mazzulla and Brad Stevens proved every single thing I've just said about Anthony Simons, and then which are the things I've been saying about him for years. Dead accurate. Completely true and factual. Because they literally couldn't keep him as a starter because he was that detrimental to the success of the Celtics that they literally put him on the bench as the 6-man. He improved. He did a lot better in every way, but he still was detrimental to the team, even when he was actually more closer to the positives. He was still a net negative on a contender. To where they traded him, and they immediately started playing way better consistently the rest of the season. They wouldn't have won as many games this year if it wasn't for trading away and getting rid of Anthony Simons. Not even a half a season into his fucking time with them. Literally, he didn't last a half a year on a contender, so you can't make the argument that he needed to be on a contender, and that was his problem, right? And why he sucked in Portland is because, well, he would do a lot better on a contender. Well, he was on a contender who literally was genuinely contending this year for a championship. They were the 2nd seed in the East. They did lose to, what was the Knicks, I think, in the 2nd round, but they put up a decent fight. But again, they weren't full power. They had Jason Tatum still apprehensive and struggling, and I think I heard like in the last couple of games they ended up taking him out because he struggled too much. Like he was not helpful to the team, so they took him out because he was also starting to have his calf act up again, as you'd expect, because again, way too fucking early he came back. They fucking called that shit too. And they suffered for it, but like you can't knock it. You can't say, oh well, but what, they would have never made it. No, they genuinely could have. I feel like they actually almost did. Like it just, circumstances weren't great, and the Knicks were just on fire for the full first 3 rounds of the playoffs. Didn't they say they went 13-0, something like that? So like literally, in other words, they swept all 3 of the first series. If that's the case, that's just disgusting. Like what's 13 game winning streak in the playoffs. Disgusting. Like you can't beat a team who's playing like that. It's not possible. Their chemistry's at their peak and apex. Their fucking rhythm's at an apex. Their confidence is at an apex. The communication's at an apex. Everything is just at its peak. You're not gonna fucking overcome that, even with championship experience, if you're Boston. So I think that's really what it was, is they ran into a buzzsaw. If that, along with Jason Tatum's issues, didn't happen, I guarantee that there was a strong chance that the Celtics would have actually made it to the ECF, or through the ECF, and actually made it to the finals again. To probably lose at that point, because again, Jason Tatum, no, you're fucked if you're Celtics at that point versus the Spurs, guaranteed, even with their inexperience. So that's kind of important to acknowledge, especially when you're looking at Anthony Simons, because Jesus. And so all this to say that literally Shaedon Sharpe is just a bigger version of Anthony Simons or CJ McCollum. That's all he is. Like and I genuinely do. I wish I could say that Shae was not that way, and that I could believe. I have any kind of level of belief in him, if not full belief in him, that he will be able to absolutely fucking kill it in in this capacity, right? And like just fulfill his full potential. I have zero belief in Shae at this point. He's been given full 4 years. He's going to his 5th season this coming season. Like the guy, yes, he's still very young. So he still could. But like the issue is that there's also the motor and the mentality issue, right? And that's the drive and the focus. You don't have drive and focus if you don't have the right motor or mentality. And Shae doesn't have a motor at all. He doesn't have a mentality at all. And he's proved it, especially actually if you compare him to Scoot Henderson in this last offseason, right? Scoot was and I literally mean non-stop from the very fucking start of the offseason. He was immediately with fucking trainers. He was immediately with, development coaches and programs. Like he was just immediately working with them. The moment the offseason started last year, Scoot was just working his ass off. And he literally did it all the way through training camp. Until he, of course, in training camp, tore his fucking quad. If that didn't happen, everyone would be singing a wildly different tune across the league, let alone across the Blazers organization about Scoot. I guarantee he would have had not just a breakout season, he would have fucking killed it on both ends this season if it was not for that damn quad injury he got, rupture or tear, in training camp. Because he worked his motherfucking ass off. And the coolest thing is, and you can still watch this if you want to here on YouTube, some of his training sessions with, I can't remember, it's one of the most well-known and renowned NBA coach development, programs and coaches that all NBA players of all ages and experience levels work with consistently to hone in their skills and sharpen them back up again and improve them. But he's right there on YouTube, and you can literally, it's when he's working with Drew. So Scoot and Drew, yes, Drew Holiday, are literally together working with the same coaching staff. Scoot only has to be told stuff and given instructions once. That is it. Just one single time, every time. He never has to ask a question. He never has to have clarification given. He never has to be told or told again. He just immediately, as soon as he's told, boom, it's locked in. Boom, 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 boom. Same thing. And it's immediate improvement. Like, you can immediately see how much it helped him. And it's great. And he doesn't have to be reminded. He doesn't remind himself. He doesn't slip out of it. Like, once it's told and instructed, boom, it's permanent. It was beautiful to see. It's incredible how quick of a learner he is. While Drew, yes, the 17-year veteran going into this season, Drew Holiday, he kept asking clarifying questions, and he kept having to be fucking told all over again what the instruction was and what he was supposed to be doing. He didn't retain it. Like, it's almost like he didn't pay attention to it, or didn't, like, focus in on it, or he didn't, like, understand what he was being told to do, which, again, is really fucking weird for a 17-year veteran to almost do what you'd expect of him Scoot, but it's the other way. It was literally the exact opposites is what Scoot and Drew worked together in those training sessions. That says a lot. That says a lot about Scoot and like his mentality and how focused and driven he is, but also like how much he's locked in to where like the moment you give him an instruction, it's locked in eternally. Whereas with Drew, he's just has to be constantly reminded. Like, it was actually kind of annoying to watch that and see him doing that and being like, what is going on with Drew? Like, how it's the most basic instructions. I don't know how he's like almost confused. Like, what is it even reminded? Or like, how does he keep forgetting? Like, is it really just the old habits of his die so hard that like he just keeps defaulting to them? Maybe, but like it's very poignant to watch because you get such an education out of it, and it's like crazy that Drew suffered and Scoot thrived in the same exact classes and environment training. It's crazy, and it says everything about Scoot you need to know. And Shae, meanwhile, last offseason, what did he do? Literally nothing. He literally did nothing. Like he just did not fucking practice at all. I mean, I'm sure he did the basic scrimmages and practices. But you can tell he's just going through the motions. He just doesn't have any drive, he doesn't have any focus, he doesn't have any motor, he doesn't have any will or care to put into it to really like focus and lock the fuck in, hone in on, I need to get better. He just does all the same shit you'd expect. And he's just droning through it and he's taking his fucking time. And it's just like, you can see in his eyes and his body language, he's just not engaged. And that's Shae's biggest problem. That's why I don't have any belief in him. He doesn't have motor. It's not that he has a bad motor. He just doesn't have a motor. He doesn't have motivation. He doesn't have a care to give, to get better. He doesn't have drive. He doesn't have a fire in him. He's just such a laid-back personality at every single level as a person, as a player, that he literally is aloof. That's what Shae is. He's an aloof guy. Yes, that means he's technically lazy, because he is. He doesn't, if he wasn't, especially athletes have to have a different criteria for lazy and aloof, and he fits it to a T. He's the fucking poster child for aloof and lazy. Like, he just, because he earned his contract, that's all he cares about. Cool, okay, great. I get my minutes, I get my start. Don't care. Good enough to me. That's Shae Sharp in a nutshell. Unlike, and also like Ant, actually, also like Anthony Simons, there's this really annoying trend in these Blazers fans that are going to super delusional, and they insist that he's like Ant. Anthony Simons improved so much year over year. He improved his defense every single year. He improved his passing, his ball distributing ability, right? His playmaking ability every single year. No, he fucking didn't. All that happened was he got more minutes and more touches over time, and especially once Dame was traded to Milwaukee, he was the guy. So he's gonna get all the fucking touches. Guess what happened with Ant? He got all the touches. And you know what happens when you get all these minutes and all these touches? All your stats go up. It's almost like that's how that works, and it makes common practical sense. And it's to be expected. But apparently, no, it shows improvement, marked improvement, blatant obvious improvement on his part, and even analysts got in on the delusion, because they're like, oh, look at him. He's so much better as a passer and a playmaker and a ball distributor now, because he set a career high in assists per game. You know what else he did? He set a career high in fucking turnovers per game. You know what the fucking assist to turnover ratio was? I won't even do that. I'll just fucking tell you his assists and his turnovers and his record, his career year. That proves such great improvements. Anthony Simons averaged in his best season, where he had the most record improvement of playmaking ability, he averaged 5.5 assists a game, 5.5, and he averaged 5.1 turnovers a game. Which is exactly the same ratio that Anthony Simons averaged his entire career before the career year he had, where he improved so much on playmaking, which was 5.5 assists and 5.1 turnovers a game. Fucking try again. Prove that you are delusional and you don't understand how fucking basketball works. That's insane. Like, it's not just the eye test, it's the literal results for the Blazers and in their games. Literally, when we were playing guys that were on two-way contracts, when we were stuck with just Anthony Simons leading this team, fucking, they literally outplayed him in the clutch. Rookie Toumani Camara literally, as much as he struggled on offense, literally was single-handedly bringing us back in games when Ant was on the bench. We literally had a chance to win at least 5 more games that season, entirely because of Toumani Camara. As a rookie. What? But yet Anthony Simons literally was killing us, because every single time that would happen, they'd bring him back in, and guess what would happen to the Blazers in those games? We'd suddenly shit the bed. We'd fucking play like absolute dog shit on both ends of the floor, and we lose the games miserably. When we literally had a chance to come back and to win the game. Some of those games, literally, Toumani single-handedly got us from being down double digits to being up on the team in the clutch. They bring Ant in, and then we just fucking shit the bed, and we're gone again. And we lose them. We had at least 5 games, and I actually calculated it was 10 games that season. That was Toumani's rookie year with the Blazers, that we could have won, and we would have won, all but guaranteed, if it wasn't for Chauncey Billups putting Ant back in the fucking game. Why do I mention this in Rant about Ant? Because, again, this is Shae Sharp in a nutshell. Including the fact that they're trying to kind of pigeonhole Shae into a combo guard role, and he's proven he sucks at that. He's actually never going to be a playmaker, because he just can't make quite the right reads, the right decisions. His brain just doesn't read plays in basketball in live time at the right speed. It's pretty fucking slow. And so, like, he just doesn't, he can't time anything right, His decision making is not great. His awareness and his vision for passing and playmaking is pretty bad. It's like, yes, it's improved incrementally, but it's still not great. For how many minutes they've put the ball in his hands over the last 2.5 seasons to try to develop him into a combo guard and a playmaker of sorts, it just isn't. The increments are so minute, like, it doesn't matter. He's just another Ant from the Simons. They also are the same athleticism. They have the same bounce. They have the same, kind of mentality in scoring, actually, now that I think about it. Like, this last season, what did you see from Shae? He literally took his shot chart was almost identical to fucking Ant's shot chart. Maybe obviously a few less threes, because Ant just was a shot chucker. And Shaden is not really fully a shot chucker yet. He seems like he's trying to become one now, but it's like, just stop. Do what you're good at. Attack the fucking rim. Like, fuck me, dude. Like, I could go on about it, man. Like, so, again, Rant, long story longer, the point being of this rant, that Shae is just another Ant, and that's why he needs to go. Shae does not have, like Ant, actually, yes, another way. Their personalities are the same. The lack of a motor is the same. The lack of a fuck to give is the same, on both ends, especially. Provably, like, I could go on forever about it. The point is, you're wrong if you say this. There's subjectivity and there's just being wrong. You are wrong if you think that we should be trading and putting Scoots over Shae on a trade block. If we do a trade, and it's a bigger trade, it needs to be JG and it needs to be one other guy. Make sure that's fucking Shaden Sharp, not Scoot Henderson. Scoot Henderson is literally the worst of our rookies you could put in there. I would literally put him over Donovan Clingan. Our rookies, sorry. Young guys. I would literally put him over Donovan Clingan. Obviously, nobody will ever be able to get above Tumani for me. And maybe Denny. But, like, Scoot's third on that list of, like, you do not trade these players. The only true untouchables on this team to me is Denny and Tumani. And the literal only untouchable is Tumani to me. Denny, only if the trade makes sense, as in we are fleecing the fuck out of that other team that wants Denny. Otherwise, he's tantamount to untouchable. Scoot is close to untouchable, but it's just that you need to give us a lot in return if we're going to include Scoot in there, to me. And then it's the same with Donovan, but he's just like a half a step below Scoot. And then after that, the majority of the rest of the players are either don't care. There's no conditions on this. If you want them, we will genuinely consider it wholeheartedly because it doesn't really matter. That's Dame, that's Drew, that's whatever. Whatever. Whoever, doesn't matter. But there's also guys I want to make sure are gone. And so actually, that's where JG falls, is he's got to fucking go. JG, get him the fuck on out of here. He's been here too long. The contract was the worst contract they could have possibly given him. They gave it to him anyway, just because Dame wanted to get his good friend paid before he fucking demanded the trade out, which he succeeded in. Because obviously the only reason why Joe Cronin gave him that contract is because they really felt, along with Vulcan, that yeah, we're going to be able to keep Dame. Because he's made it a stipulation like, hey, I want to make sure my guy stays and he's paid. Okay, cool. JG, here's $150 million over 4 or 5 years. Fuck off. And then he's like, great, got it. You got it. You secured the bag. You signed it. Perfect. I'm on out of here. Fuck out. I'm fucking off. Get me to fucking Miami. He went to Milwaukee. The rest is history. So it's literally Dame's fault that we ended up in that position, and that we even have JG still. And then, so yeah, get him the fuck out of here. Too expensive, too old, not good enough as a player. Too many conflicts in the rotations. He has to be gone 7 years ago. And then the other guy is Chris Murray. Get Bricks Murray, get my brick merchant the fuck off this team. Again, like I said, I love garbage guys, I love garbage men, I love the junkyard dogs, I love the hustle guys, and I love the defensive players. And yes, Chris Murray fits that to a T. However, not enough. Furthermore, his age, the fact he's never developed, and the fact that, let's face it, his offense is still absolutely horrific. There's a reason why my brother calls him Bricks Murray. I tend to refer to him as Brick Merchants because he's a fucking merchant of. Literally, if you want to build a house in live time out of bricks on an NBA court, put Chris Murray in the game, get him touches, tell him to shoot. He's gonna miss like everything most of the time. Like, get him the fuck on out of here. If we're gonna choose between CD Sissoko and Bricks Murray, Chris Murray, get fucking Chris on out of here. Waive him. I don't care. If you can't get anything for him, including a shitty second round pick or just shitty cash considerations, waive him. Get rid of him. He's not worth our time. You know, and those are the only two guys that I literally can say are like, get him the fuck out of here. Because I would love to, again, re-sign Robert Williams. I think that he's a keystone to keep. And again, I wouldn't entirely mind keeping Drew. But you gotta be willing to ask one of these guys, whether it's Dame or Drew, to be our sixth man and come off the bench. I know Scoot is never gonna have a problem with being a sixth man. He proved it this last year. He just wants to work his ass off to earn his fucking spot and earn his keep. He wants to earn his rightful spot as the starting point guard for the team, and eventually as the future point guard and cornerstone for the team, right? You can tell everything he does off season, on season. He's humble as fuck. He does not care about his role necessarily. He just wants to play, and he just wants to prove himself and earn his keep, earn his spot, and keep getting better. And I love the fuck out of the fact that that's what Scoots do. That's what he's proven to be. So I'm a huge fan of Scoots, and I'm really, really fucking excited for this next season. Fingers crossed that he doesn't get injured. Fingers crossed he doesn't fucking get injured. Because he's gonna absolutely make all of his haters and all of his doubters eat mad shit. They're going to be curb stomped, and their teeth are going to be kicked in. That's how wrong they're going to be. And that, unfortunately, includes a fuck ton of Blazers analysts and media, and even more so, a fuckload of Blazers fans. Clearly, by the fact that they want him to be treated like JG, to get him on up the fuck out of here in a trade, but they somehow want Shae to be untouchable? Tell me you don't know basketball without knowing basketball, man. That's fucked up. Hell fucking no. Especially the more nuanced details behind the scenes, dude. Like the work ethics and stuff. Nah. You don't know shit. You don't know ball. Yes, that means I am saying indirectly I do know ball. You just don't. But different story. Anyway, there's that. Shout out to Gustavo Leon for no reason at all. I actually kind of wish he did make the league. Fortunately, he didn't. And until next time, this is actually the end. You said what I want to say about the Blazers. Thank you for watching. Whether it's the live stream or the VOD, stay safe out there. Let me know your thoughts about the things I talked about in here in the comments below. And I would read off the rest of the picks that have now passed since. I'm just not going to. See you later. And goodbye. Yes, I do.